Good evening. It's March 18th, 2025 at 5:30 PM Eastern Time. This is the Village of Gates Mills Council agenda. Beth, may I have the roll call, please?
Aton.
Here.
Broom.
Here.
Press.
Here.
Steinbrink.
Here.
Turner. Here. Could we have a motion to excuse Councilmember Deacon?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Craig. Thank you, Scott. Roll call.
Aton.
Yes.
Broom.
Yes.
Press.
Yep.
Steinbrink.
Yes.
Turner. Yep. And I believe Mr. Oneska is.
Mr. Inesco, who was recently appointed by council to fill the spot that had been Ed Walsh's spot, is on Zoom today. He's on the West Coast, could not make this first meeting given the short amount of time, but is going to listen to the discussion. I thought we'd start the meeting with just a short reflection on Ed Welsh. Good evening. Thanks for coming. Ed passed away on February 24th. He served on council for 25 years. I came to know Ed the last 4 years in serving in this position as mayor and treasurer. So while I haven't known Ed as long as many of you have, I have come to know his points of view reasonably well. Ed's 25 years of service are very impressive. Listening to viewpoints and complaints of residents, trying to always represent those that may not have had a voice. He went through 7 elections, include 2 that were won by the slimmest of margins, 5 mayors, Sally Broom, Connie White, Sean Riley, Karen Schneider, and myself, dozens of fellow council members, and by rough count, over 250 council and committee meetings. Ed was devoted to his position of helping guide the village. In addition to the village council, he was a longtime trustee and officer of the Improvement Society and a leader on the Friends of the Library Board. Ed loved the village and appreciated the way in which things were handled, not just the result. He consistently reminded us of how things used to be and challenged us whether we had thought about doing things in a similar way. He was for the average man and the average woman. In council, he was concerned about costs and the effect on homeowner taxes. Ed was a wonderful advocate for our safety forces, bringing with him years of EMT and paramedic experience that made conversations about safety and response time more of a personal dialogue than a discussion on legislation. The village presented to Ed's children a gift to recognize his role on council last Saturday. Before COVID, it had been the village practice for the 7 council members, the clerk, the treasurer, and the mayor to all sit at the large council table in the town hall and discuss the issues and legislation and ordinances. We didn't use microphones, participate in Zoom or live streaming. Each of the 10 persons had their seat at the table, and they earned that seat because their neighbors elected them to that spot. In that role, it was your job to represent those that elected you, not yourself. It was also a tradition that when you no longer served in that role, your chair would be retired and given to you as a token of gratitude for your years of service. So last Saturday, we retired Ed's chair. His years of service and his name were painted on the back, and we gifted the chair to Ed's family as a modest thank you on behalf of the village for Ed's decades of public service to the village and its many organizations. I would say on a personal note, it was wonderful to see all of council at one of the 2 or both events last week, either the first activity at the mausoleum or at the celebration of life here in Burton Court. Thank you all for attending, as well as some of our officers and employees. Next item, Ed's passing created a vacancy on council. We haven't, to my knowledge, had that caused by a death in a long time. And the charter of the village is pretty clear with its 2 sentences. Council shall fill the spot in 30 days. And provided very little guidance on how to do that, leaving it up to the discretion of people that were running the village at the time. In speaking with yourselves, we agreed that we would have an outreach of some sort to the villagers to first inform them that Ed had passed away and that the seat was vacant, and also offering to give them a short introductory course on what it takes to be a council member, and perhaps generate some interest from that. We did have 9 people that attended the information session, I'll call it, on the 10th of March, Monday morning. And after that, 5 indicated an interest in being interviewed. We agreed as council and the mayor that we would prepare questions and in advance and distribute those to the candidates, as well as asking them for those in response and their resume. All of them did that, and on Thursday, we conducted 5 interviews. That was a pretty full session from 9 in the morning until a little after 12, and council, pursuant to our plan, agreed to meet on Sunday afternoon at 4 o'clock to deliberate the vacancy. And so we did that. Deliberations were held in executive session as is permitted by the laws, and lasted for about an hour and a half. After that, the council went back into a normal session. There was a motion and a second and approval to appoint John Anusko to the open vacant spot, and so on. I spoke to John on Monday, offered him the position on behalf of council, which he accepted. And then I talked to the other candidates and thanked them for their interest and their time in the interview preparation and the interview participation. And I know they'll all continue to participate in village affairs. Okay. The oath of office will therefore not be administered today. I'll do that with John when he returns sometime early next week. Okay. The next item on the agenda is the minutes of the council meeting of February 18th, 2025. Beth has, or Janet, someone has sent those out in advance, so I guess here is the part of the package. Were there any questions or comments on the February 18th minutes?
Yeah, I sent some to Beth.
Sorry, Sandra?
I didn't edit. I didn't edit.
You had an edit, yes.
Yeah. On the bottom of page 6, Councilman Turner found Councilmember Atten's comments on process, et cetera.
Can't hear you. Can you move it a little closer,
Sorry.
please, Sandra? Thanks.
The last paragraph I would change to Councilmember Turner found Councilmember Atten's comments about the process at P and Z during the 781 River Road meeting to mean that he supported the outcome of that process. However, he implied that the administration at that time was not supporting the process. It should be noted that such a statement is unfair. I thought what I wrote, or what was written here, maybe word for word, but didn't think it was real clear and thought this was a clear statement.
Could you let me have that?
I sent it to you. Oh, today,
Okay,
today.
all right.
So you're asking the minute
Oh, asking
change
to
to
be
your precise wording which you provided?
Yes.
Okay. David, you had some
Which one are
comments?
we doing, the 10th or the 18th?
February 18th, please.
18th.
If you want to read it.
Sorry, no. Page 5, last paragraph, third line.
Page
Okay.
5, hold on a second. Okay,
It's a modification which would say we shouldn't get too caught up in what we believe as current council members. That's what I meant to say. That's what I think I said.
Where are you again?
Page 5, last paragraph, third line.
we shouldn't get too caught up in what we believe, and you
Yeah.
said what?
Yeah, what we believe as current council members. I mean, it will, is that,
So add in as current council members.
yes. We should be, well, what I was trying to say, we should be thinking about councils in the future. I can say. Don't change it if you don't want.
So,
Well, we'll get them all first, and then we'll talk about it.
just I guess a general question, I think in changing the format of the minutes to include, what effectively is a timestamp on when the conversation started, I'm just wondering if, call it intent versus what was actually said. And so are we relying on Beth or Janet to infer what may being said versus what was actually said, and how important is that when we've got, I mean, I think it captures the gist of the conversation, and if somebody wants more detail, there's a timestamp on here to be able to go to the actual video and see that. So I'm just,
Mhm.
you know, unless there was a glaring omission, I look at this as being the Cliff's Notes, and if you want more information, I've got a timestamp here, and if there were 2 words or 4 words or a different sentence or 2 of what was meant to be said or intended to say, it's just a general question in terms of how much,
Well, when we started
On
the
the
year,
edits
that
on
was the
this.
agreement, that we would, we would rely primarily on the tapes, and apply some discretion to whoever was the note keeper to summarize the significant items, and particularly those where there was a vote, but not to be required to.
Are we
transcribe the entire
required to
thing.
keep minutes now that we have video recordings of everything?
Well, the sense of the group last year, my recollection anyways, is that people wanted minutes at least where there were areas where there was a vote and leading right up to the vote, but not necessarily on every item. Is that true?
Yeah, that was gonna be, I mean, page 6 and the last big paragraph there, I kind of stopped my thought right in. Did I really say that? And then I went back and I listened to the video and I did word for word what I said. So I guess I need to practice on finishing my thought, right?
Well, maybe you compromise. Maybe you, since we got the video record, maybe the minutes are just what the what the results of the voting were, and that's that. It would save somebody, Beth or Janet or someone, heck of a lot of work.
I think the minutes are important. If you've ever tried to go back and look at 7 or 8 years ago from a meeting and understand something's on 3rd reading, was there any discussion, and it's thin, and we don't have video. And so I'm just wondering if at the end of the day, if it matters, and if we should be asking the clerk to infer what Michael's intent was and what they were saying, or Scott's intent, or we've got it kind of close enough, and if there's some questions, it's time-stamped and someone can go to it's just a question. I mean, that would be my preference, like it's
Right.
close enough.
You're saying the minutes as they are good enough for you,
That would be,
as written.
I'm okay with that, yes.
You know, a couple years ago, I hate to spend a lot of time on minutes, we gonna try to make it a summary, just some bullet points and have it be 2 pages long.
Because we've got the
And
video.
much important stuff has been going on to turn it into a bunch of bullet points.
Yeah.
And I try to say exactly what you guys say. If you don't finish your sentences, sometimes
That is what it's, I gotta leave there,
Yeah.
right?
I would agree that the minutes are important, and there has been so many things going on and so many differences of opinion that it's important to, to capture it. I think we have, if something's been unclear, we've asked the speaker to clarify what their meeting was. And when somebody wanted to change words, we, certainly didn't do that because that wasn't what they spoke. So in terms of my comment, I mean, if what I said is clear, then I don't need to edit it. I was just thinking that it wasn't clear.
I
So,
think with the written thing, it was probably, with the recording, it would have been clear.
I think it was a little garbled and kind of hard to hear, but,
Okay, how do you want to proceed? Do you want to accept the minutes as they are? Or do you want to accept the 2 changes from David and Sandra?
I'll move to accept those changes and
I agree with that.
I have some more too.
Uh-oh,
Change.
maybe I don't.
or
On February, on the same day?
Same day. Page 8, last paragraph, line 7. The word stuff is not elegant enough for Gates Mills. I should have said matters. If we want to look good as a group, we should take out speak talk. Another one on the second as well. I think 781 River Road is great for the people who've lived here for a long time. It should actually be 781 Chagrin River Road. It's on the 5th line, page 5.
Any other changes?
All I have on the video.
Scott, do you want to keep your motion of accepting them with the combination of those changes from Sandra or David or not?
I do.
Is there a second on that motion?
Second.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion?
I-
Minutes of
I-
February,
I disagree with changing words when they're clear. I don't know that a Gates Mills language is the criteria.
What if somebody swore?
okay, well, we have a motion and a second, so let's vote and we'll see. Okay? Roll call, please, on accepting the minutes of February 18th as adjusted.
Eton,
Yes.
Broom,
Yes.
Press,
Yes.
Steinberg.
Yes.
Turner.
No,
Okay, thank you. This ought to be a doozy. February 10th. Okay, those minutes were provided to you electronically a few days ago, or perhaps Sunday. Are there any comments on the minutes of February 10th?
So, Steve, I think, cause I didn't get the 10th. Must have been with the forwarding and the mail, they bounced.
Do you remember how we sent them?
Jean sent them on Monday, and Scott, I did send you some like at about 5 o'clock.
Okay.
Given that there's only 5 of us and Scott hasn't seen them, would it be all right to jump over this and come back to it either later or at the next meeting?
Yep.
Because there are a lot of items in there, and in fairness to the preparation, we should make sure that we've all had a chance to read them. So we'll put these, we'll hold off on these until next meeting, okay? Thank you. Okay, the next item is pay ordinance number 1295 in the amount of $715,047.81. Scott, you had 4 questions. I sent you answers back just around 5:15. I don't know if you got them or not. I can answer them here if need be.
If, real quick, I mean, just, Cuyahoga County selling.
Those are our dues.
That's what I thought, yeah. And,
The computer costs were either for improved security that we're putting in, and/or, I'm not sure the timing of that. We had 2 new computers, including a new keyboard and a screen in my office.
bounty enforcement dues.
County enforcement is once a year, $12,000. Those are dues for the year. There's no other payments. And the last one is for tree canopy mapping. It's a license of the software, not a purchase.
Move to approve pay ordinance 1295.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Roll call, please, Beth.
Eton,
Yes.
Broom,
Yes.
Press,
Yes.
Steinberg,
Yes.
Turner.
yes,
Okay, there's a document that was just placed in front of you earlier entitled Village Boards, Commissions, and Committees. This is 2 pages, and there are 3 things to do with this. Number 1, with Ed's passing away, I would like to appoint Catherine Goss to replace Ed Welsh as the chairman of the Board of Cemeteries. Catherine is the CEO and the president of Lakeview Cemetery, eminently qualified to help us in this role. She is excited to step up from being just on the committee to chair it, and we'll look for your approval for that. In addition, on the Service Committee, on the top of page 2, second item down, it says Service Committee. Doug Horner has agreed to be the chair of the Service Committee, replacing Larry Frankel. I talked to Larry. He said he's perfectly fine relinquishing that role, which he had primarily as a council member. He still retains his role as chairman of the Safety and Emergency Committee. And I think having Doug do that role, we'll be able to kind of get organized around him with regard to some agendas and priorities. Somebody to oversee the roads program, working with Dave and Chris and I, and frankly, someone to help oversee the waste and the recycling contract as well with Dave and I. Doug is happy to serve in that role, and so I'd like your approval for that. In addition, this represents my thoughts on how we could organize the boards, the commissions, and the committees, and what I see are some things that we could talk about at future meetings. By my math, we'll be able to treat 6 of these as ad hoc committees, where we only need a staff people and a chair if there's an issue, such as long-range planning, charter review, gas well safety, stormwater phase 2, Board of Income Tax review. These are things that haven't probably even met in a year or two. There's a few opportunities to merge a few committees into one committee, and probably 3 places where you could just drop a committee where it no longer needs to have a separate purpose. So I'd ask you to take a look at these and send comments back before the next meeting, or give me a call and we can talk about these. There are also a number of places where we have need some appointments. So if, as you're reading this, you can think of a name or two of someone that might be a candidate, I'd be happy to have those. So can I get approval for Catherine Goss and Doug Horner to chair the cemetery and the service committees respectively?
So moved.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Sandra. Any further discussion? Roll call, please, Beth.
Anton,
Yes.
Broom,
Yes.
Press, Steinbrink,
Yes.
Turner. Yes.
Thank you. The next item on Mayor's report is the annual report. You should have found in your packages this weekend a glossy document that is our annual report. This was produced entirely inside, but for the printing and the mailing. Most of the photography was either done by our people or by the village residents, including the cover page, which I have fallen in love with. Now, we started this in January, which is why we had snow on the bridge. I didn't think it would take me 10 weeks to get it out the door. We should probably now have daisies on the bridge, but the Garden Club has not yet decorated the bridges, so we're not missing anything. The thought was this, we have in the past had an annual review letter that was 2 or 3 pages long. It would go out in the pink sheet maybe or near it. And I felt we needed something more this year for a couple of reasons. Number one, I think one of the biggest achievements we did in '24 was take all the work from the comprehensive plan and the planning process and the hundreds of volunteers, the thousands of hours that was kind of left hanging. What are we doing with the plan? What happened to it? And, we as a council and the administration last January, February, figured out how to turn all the work of the planning process into something that we could organize and work forward on. And we set 3 priorities, which those were safety and environmental stewardship and community engagement. And so this document was meant to be, this is a document of the village. So if someone says, what did you ever do with the comprehensive plan? The answer is, we turned it into strategic priorities. Here are the 3. They're documented in the annual report. And so we've kind of closed the book on that in terms of where's the plan at and when's it going to be updated. Number 2, I think we undertook a lot of stuff in the plan, and we should not be afraid to talk about our accomplishments and what we did moving forward in the various priorities that we set forth. It shows that it's not just a plan that's in a binder that's on the shelf behind the credenza behind your desk, because that's where a lot of plans end up. But indeed, we took all these priorities and we put them into action, and everybody can be proud of what we did. Maybe we could have done more, but we did a heck of a lot. Did a lot on safety, a lot on the environment, and a lot on community engagement. So I wanted people to see that we, have taken the comprehensive plan work and used it as a guide, turned it into priorities, and are acting priorities. And then finally, it's a bit of a marketing tool. If people say, what's different about Gates Mills? On the front side, there's a little story of Gates Mills at a glance. There's a brief explanation of our priorities. There's a financial page that says we're in good shape. And then there's 3 pages each on our priorities, what we were challenged to do and what we did about them. So I hope you have a chance to read through there. This is the first time through, and If you have any comments on longer, shorter, or other things that could be in it, happy to have those, put those in the file and work on them next year.
Yeah, excellent job. Very well done. Just a quick question. Do we have extra copies of this that have been left at Addie's or?
We,
Can be
I think we had I think we had 900 homes. I think we had 1,000 or 1,100 printed. So if you need extra copies, Janet's got it.
Okay, and then do we have I assume we have a PDF version of this that could be
We do,
emailed out?
we do.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, that brings us to our financial report for the year. Janet is on vacation, and I will answer any questions that you may have on the financial numbers. I will say we caught up a little bit with real estate tax advances. We knew that January was late in terms of the billings that the county did and therefore the collections that we received. We caught up and a little bit over that. $43,000 comes to mind here. So that's, no, I'm sorry, 296, municipal taxes were $43,000 higher.
Wouldn't we have expected higher real estate taxes in view of the reassessment, the Cuyahoga County reassessment of property?
We're expecting either 240 or 270,000 more this year than last year. I can't remember which of those two numbers.
And
So
yet-
about 10%.
And yet we're running behind. Is it a timing thing or?
We didn't get our certification of the values until, I'll say January 15th. We normally get that week before Christmas. So the county was, by what measures we keep track of, they were behind by about 4 to 5 weeks, which I think they were waiting for certifications from the state. Until they had those, they couldn't send the bills out.
I think we didn't pay till February.
Yeah.
I think the real estate taxes on the front page are those that flow directly into the general fund. There are two streams of real estate tax that flow directly into the special funds, the Land Conservancy, Land Conservation, and the Peace Pension Fund. So that reduces the number. And the biggest increase was actually in the Land Conservation number because it didn't have to deal with the leveling of real estate values. If they go up, the levy delivers more money.
Okay, thank you. Michael?
One more question. I see on the traffic cam revenue, it's down relative to our budget. But I remember that we lowered the threshold a little bit. And I think that went into effect in September. I would have expected the number the year-to-date to be going the other way because we didn't budget when we changed the budget value when we lowered the threshold. We left it same as it had been last year.
Correct.
So I'm confused why it's going down instead of going up.
Well, the short answer is we have less people passing through, number one, because the passes are down, and the number of people that are passing through at high rates, speeding, are down.
Well, that may mean the
That could mean that our.
system is working.
Well, the system is working. It could have a negative effect on us, another 3 to 6 months from now. We have seen, I think, February's numbers, Chief, 355,000 passes in February versus 335 in January. So they're back up. They were in the low twos, November, December. That may be seasonality, Michael. But the people passing through the village, numbers are back up.
Early days.
Early days.
To be declaring anything.
Said, well, we've said that for 16 months now. We need about 2 years of data before we can start relying on that as predictors. Scott?
I think the weather, people drive slower in the weather. In the winter, springtime to time to start writing tickets.
Yeah, although Dave does a pretty good job of keeping. We don't actually plow that, do we? I guess that's probably a state road.
And
Okay.
motorcycles, I hear any indication, speeds will be going back up soon.
We'll conclude our financial report, clerk's report. Beth, anything from the clerk's office?
No.
Okay, Chief Minicello, Police Department report, please.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. Everybody should have received a copy of my monthly report. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. While you're looking that over, I could certainly talk about a couple things in my report. No particular order. Number 3 there, you may have, some of you may recall, we had a pretty serious car accident last March, and that was at Mayfield and County Line when a young man rear-ended a senior couple, elderly couple, if you will, and then, they were seriously injured in the crash, and he had a little bit of a driving history behind that as well. So he was actually charged with his aggravated vehicular assault and whatnot, and they just sentenced him. It takes a long time to run through the court, Cuyahoga County, and they sentenced him to 18 months. And he was just sentenced about a month ago. So he's a Euclid man. He'll be in there for about another 12 to 17 months. So that was probably the most severe accident we've had down here in a while. And then you'll see number 2, this couple actually, they were in today, they were out of town. They reported this incident here when they were visiting one of the southern states. A gentleman, and I think we have a lead on who this person is. He's not from here. And, several vehicles were being purchased in his name at local dealerships online. And this gentleman, the suspect actually had all the contact information from the resident with the suspect's picture on there. So all the information was on there, name, address, such and such. So we actually followed through at this with Atlanta, and we're going to see where this goes. But the residents just returned back. So most of this was done online, if you will, over the phone, and they were in today to complete some additional paperwork. So we're working through that. And the last one right there, you'll see that we expect an officer who's been off since November 15th to return, looks like April 3rd. So, that would be good news. And, we'll work through that when the officer returns. Yes, I can. So, yes, thank you for the reminder. Van Snyder, I have this written in my pink sheet column. So we put Van Snyder on part-time. Mayor swore him in, I think it was last Monday, if I'm not mistaken. He's actually here tonight working some training. Van works in Mayfield Heights. He's been a longtime police officer up there, 25 years. Some of you may know him. He's very well known. He's assigned to Lander Road Elementary School as their school resource officer. And quite honestly, he's always had a likeness for Gates Mills. He lives in Mayfield Heights. And we've had some success with another Mayfield Heights officer who works full-time, works part-time with us. And, they had a conversation. We lost a part-timer here not too long ago. So Van reached out and we talked about it. I had him in a couple times, and we think he's going to give us some pretty good hours. He's in the schools again, Monday through Friday. And usually, we look for some support more on the weekends, and he should be available for quite a few of those. So we think he'll be a great addition, and he fits in really well down here.
Van is a good officer.
Thank you. Any other comments for the chief?
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Dave, Service Department, please.
Thank you, Mayor and members of council. You should have received a brief monthly report for the service department. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Dave, you want to comment on how it was that you were able to get the snow to stop that 1 week so that the guys could paint the inside of the Mills building and not affect the roads?
I wish I could take a lot of credit, but I think that's Mother Nature and the man above that actually did that. Talk about timing. It worked out great.
In the minutes, he said he was worrying about ordering more salt, and all of a sudden.
Yep. Boom.
Oh, that's right.
So just a bit of background on that. The Mills building, responsibility for the common areas, the bathrooms, the stairways are ours. The inside offices are the responsibility of the tenants. Saros was closed for 7 to 10 days while they did their once in every 5 or 10 year thorough clean, as well as painted their own facilities. We took advantage of the time when the building was closed and coordinating with them to do our work, which was painting all the walls, the bathrooms, and the flooring. We will pay for, as is required, we'll pay for the new flooring, but we subcontracted that out. It was carpet tiles and some stone by the entryway. And Dave and the team did all the painting ourselves, so there should be no incremental cost to us labor-wise except for paint.
Last week. And sorry, so it's really not.
Yeah, I know periodically throughout the years, we're touching up doors or trim or something, but, I think this is really the first major overhaul of the common areas since really we finished the building, the fresh carpet and the tile and the paint, so. Certainly was a great opportunity when they let us know that that was gonna take place, so we wanted to take advantage of that.
And number 4 there, it's nice to
Yes.
see about John Pata
Yes,
becoming a licensed instructor and Nick passing a state exam.
Yes.
That's right.
yes, and, Nick is doing an absolutely wonderful job, between his welding skills and, his loading dock or overhead door service from working with his dad at Weber. We're not having to call J&L Door as much on all our overhead doors. He knows what he's doing, and he's just working out to be a really good fit for us. I think it was a really good choice, and I'm very happy that we have him on our department.
Tell John that his next student probably won't be as easy to pass.
Yeah.
And Jeff's with us for another 60 days?
Yeah, June. Yeah, June. He hasn't given me the confirmed date. I think he said he had to meet with, Opers like 90 days out, so he should be about that, and I'll get his, actual last day.
David, just
Yes.
quick, what's phase 2 stormwater mapping? I'm curious about.
So, as part of the, phase 2, we hold a permit, with the Ohio EPA. And that allows all our stormwater to go into Lake Erie, basically, if you look at it that way. And when they came out with this program, they set a bunch of requirements. There's, I think, 7 basic requirements you have to fulfill. One of them is stormwater mapping. You have to show that you know where all your stormwater structures are and how the system's working. So that way, if there's problems down the line, like some type of illicit discharge, you know how to look for it and where it could be coming from. So that's what that is.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm. And I would say that that reimbursement was the first time that we actually applied for that funding out of that. That's a newer program with the Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District. So we did get that reimbursement approval.
You notice that the 640 new plans are
Yes.
going to historic review tomorrow.
Yes,
And I guess they go into, if it all goes well, to ARB next Wednesday or Thursday, I forget which.
correct.
Is that
Yeah.
the plan?
That would be the hope, yeah,
Good.
certainly. And I think Todd's gonna attend tomorrow's meeting just to make sure everything flows smoothly.
Good.
If there are no other questions, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Dave. Tom Majewski, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. You have a copy of my written report. I just wanted to point out that we did attend the seminar in Willoughby Hills on Chagrin River Valley flooding and met with people from the National Weather Service and the Ohio Department of Natural Resources, and got a few things of interest to start looking at in the future. Of course, my own history with the Chagrin River Valley dates back to the mid-70s, as I was a member of the Willoughby Hills Fire Department for 22 years and participated in some of those flooding events. And although we usually don't have that type of flooding here in Gates Mills anymore, we do have a potential for the flash flooding events, which can occur really in any season but they're more likely to happen in the spring. So we'll be looking at a few things to help us gauge those things in the future. Are there any other questions?
Pass along our thanks to Scott, Paul, and Corey.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Okay, next item is a series of resolutions. First resolution, number 13, is number 25-5 on third reading. This is the resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a service agreement, an indefeasible right-to-use agreement, and a grant of right of first refusal agreement with Chagrin Valley Gig LLC to provide a fiber optic broadband communication network in the village of Gates Mills. I think the preambles in there summarize it fairly well. We've started studying this in 2022. Looked at the feasibility, understood that it was feasible, though it was not a very dense nor easily traversed topography to put in buried internet fiber, and it would probably cost the village upwards of $1 million or more to do so. We sought the help of a consulting firm, which again commented on the feasibility and helped us in the RFP process. Council then approved us to negotiate with the winner of that RFP process, Chagrin Valley Gig, which we've done for a number of months. That's resulted in the the resolution and the three agreements that you have in front of you. We've had really good input from all members on council. Lori has done a wonderful job, along with Mike Press as council representatives, working with Chagrin Valley Gig and with others. We've also used the volunteer time of two of our residents, Dennis Lezot and Rick Heimer, both quite knowledgeable in these kinds of areas. And also just sent the documents to John Anusko, who's out of town again, so he had a chance to familiarize himself at least with what's in there. At this point, I'm happy to answer any questions. I think a few council people maybe want to make some remarks with regard to this, and that would be perfectly fine, and now's the right time. David, can I start with you alphabetically? Because I'd like to go around the table, make sure everybody has a chance to comment.
So I don't use bad words. I'm going to read what I'm going to say. So I took them all out. So I've seen a number of long-term transactions driven by clear strategic benefits, but undermined by overly optimistic pricing and lack of sustained long-term overview, just from my experience in BP. My view of the proposed fiber arrangement with CVG is that it is based on a compelling strategy, executing with a first-class partner. However, I do not understand some of the commercial aspects of the proposed agreements. The proposed prepayment of $455,000 effectively provides at no subsequent additional cost to the village an upgradable fiber service to the 11 village sites for 25 years, and a roughly 8% average price discount on residential services for 7 years. This proposed repayment would be paid to CVG when the service to be provided to the village sites is operational, possibly this year, possibly as early as this year. I do not understand the economic justification of the proposed prepayment, which I think does insulate CVG from some of the risk of residential subscription risk, something I expected the village to avoid. I also do not understand how the prepayments are being secured against possible failure of CVG through the indefeasible right-to-use agreement, which I don't understand at all. Section 4D of the services agreement, in my view, is not sufficiently clear to endure 25 years of interpretation. Some illustrative quantitative examples of its application included in the binding documentation might be helpful for future village administrations. To clarify what we intended with the language by some examples. My understanding was that CVG did not require any prepayment It was an option made available to the village at the beginning of the process. I therefore think council might have been presented with a choice, either with or without prepayment. Finally, the village will need to conduct continuous oversight on CBG's current and future activities to ensure that our residents are being served as promised in the proposed services agreement with CBG. And that will be a 25-year project of oversight, just making sure we understand what they're doing and making sure they're delivering to our residents what was promised in this agreement. In spite of my lack of understanding of some of the commercial terms, I am voting in favor of the resolution, relying on our negotiating team having achieved their view of the best deal possible for Gates Mills.
Group, let me ask you each for your comments, and then to the extent there's responses to these, I'm happy to try to respond to them. Okay? Do it that way. Scott, you next.
Sure, so, it's pretty hard to follow David's analysis. It's pretty good. But the right to use, and the right to first refusal, I mean, it came to the point where the village really had a need for that property, and I suppose we could fire away out. That was my hesitancy on this.
On the right of first refusal. On the property.
Yes.
And we all know it's the OET building.
Yep.
Okay.
But otherwise, I think I think they'll be capable of doing. The big question that I had was, as I read the document, hey, listen, you're going to have to increase at some point faster than 1 gig upstream and downstream. I think our questions were answered that will occur. The system's capable of handling 10 gigs, and that's where their subscriber risk balances. AT&T were to come through and say, well, I'll offer you 3 gigs. Well, CBA gigs can either have to pony up that or not. And we'll offer a reliability component and the ability for villagers to sign up and have the fiber, their house off the ground, be a great benefit of that. Personal experience, we buried our line from the street to our house time ago. And before last, I saw flashlights out in the woods, and they were following the line that goes down to the Ingalls and Frankel's house. And the branch had fallen on the line coming off the pole. So I would be in favor. Good for me.
Thank you. Michael Press?
I think it's pretty clear that fiber optic is the way we want to go in the future. So I think it's directionally, the agreement is directionally consistent with that. David may be right, the agreement may not be perfect. However, CBG's offer is a lot better than whatever's in second or third place. So it's not a bad deal, in my opinion. I think for the benefit of the audience, they should understand that we're not giving anybody a monopoly here. It's an option. Any resident can stay with their current servers or sign up with new servers who may come into town. It's a free option for residents to sign up, and it seems to me overall, although not perfect, it's a good thing.
Thank you. Craig, any comments?
I'm in support of this. I think this process started 6 years ago with the survey that was sent out in 2019 to residents asking if they were happy with their internet service. I think we've done a lot of right things. Chagrin Valley gig is relatively new, but we're a small rural village and we don't necessarily have 5 or 6 different providers knocking down our door trying to offer this to residents. So I think we were able to use, a neighboring community as a free first look to see how things went and get some insight there before moving forward. And, I'm in support of this. I think there aren't any obligations on residents. I think the village has got security for 25 years, along with the cell tower. So if the power does go out and there is a large internet outage, that we've got the cell tower as a backup on that, so.
Thank you. Sandra?
I think this is a huge step forward, an accomplishment. Thinking back to the beginning of this process, as you were talking about, Craig, a lot of hands have touched it, and there have been a lot of comments and a lot of discussions with different providers. So it feels like we've done our due diligence over time and come up with a wonderful solution. I remember some of the comprehensive plan meetings where people were talking about connectivity, all kind of connectivity between people and bike paths and trails, but especially connectivity. And when I think about some of our business people sitting in their cars to do business because it was the best way that they could connect, it was really not a good look for the village. I don't have the eye that David has in terms of reviewing contracts, but I do trust Lori and the mayor and our consultant, which I think was really a good move too, in bringing on a consultant who could go through an RFP and make this as objective as possible. So I think the process has worked, and congratulations to all who have had a hand in bringing this to fruition.
Steve, just for the record, do we need, since there are 5 of us here today, do we need 3 votes to pass this, or do we need 4 votes? Because we have 7 on council overall.
4 votes are required.
Thank you for clarifying that, Mike. Okay, let me just comment on 2 things, and this is not a point counterpoint, just maybe a little more information on how we got to this point. First of all, the uptake risk that David mentioned, perhaps some would view that the village is the first body in and is eliminating some of the risk of who would be available. That's true, but we are not guaranteeing any uptake or any level of service by any resident. There's no penalty, there's no requirement, there's no need. We essentially are the first guys in line. We raised our hands, said we're in. And if that reduces their uptake risk a bit, then that's what it is. In terms of capability to monitor, I think we know that. It's the same way we have with East Ohio Gas, or with Ohio Bell, or with the water company or the sewer company. These are essentially utilities. This is another utility. It may not be governed by a PUCO. I don't know if it is or isn't, but it's treated as utility in the state, and so there's monitoring done by others than us. But it is important for us, just as we do with our other utilities, monitor to make sure our residents are getting fair service for their fair price. In terms of I appreciate the compliments on the compelling strategy and the strategic partner. We've done a lot of diligence on that, David and others, and we're quite satisfied. We're fortunate to have second mover advantage behind Hunting Valley's first mover advantage, and able to see what they're doing. We did just check this morning again. They've had no problems in Hunting Valley on doing anything with burial delivery. All the lines currently in place have been buried. There is nothing hanging at this point off of any poles or any wires. So part of that is the fact that they have access maybe to different types of boring equipment or auger equipment that maybe others would, and have an ability to go through whatever surfaces down below. And finally, I guess just in terms of the 455,000, I mean, the way it worked is we started with and it was myself and Lori and maybe Michael, I forget who was in these meetings. We're going back 6 months now. But, the first price was $119. I'm talking about basic service here. I'm sorry, $114.95. And just like when you go out to buy a car, that's the sticker price. And so you say, well, what's the real price? Well, sometimes that is the real price, or it's more. But in this case, we did receive an initial discount. Personally, I was pushing for something in the $75 to $85 range, and we started at 114. I felt that we needed to get to a number that was lower than that, and to see what we could do to use essentially the power of the village and the power of our balance sheet, to drive the price down for our residents. So, the items that we talked about after that were what could we provide as a village, as in-kind services. We have the ability to let them hang their cable, if you will, or their fiber under our bridges. That's something that they would otherwise have had to pay for, or will pay for in some other community, but we own those bridges or have the ability to do that. That's of value to them, and therefore we use that as a cost reduction. We did the same thing with the OBT building and with several other services that we, Dave, and our village here will be providing for them as they install it. That brought the price down. It still wasn't where we wanted it or where I wanted it, and so we said, what else can we do? And essentially the idea of a prepayment of our service, which frankly, we will be paying more, we will be paying less going forward for the next 25 years than we pay right now. The 25 years was attractive because it went through the entire life of the agreement. We didn't want to be whipsawed into being enticed into the first couple of years and then finding that we've got all the village's buildings connected and we're held hostage. So we locked the price in for 25 years, and as best we could do for the citizens, it was 7 years. We also agreed to prepay it because we frankly have the balance sheet. And some people sometimes ask me, do you need all that money? And what do you have all that money for? Why don't you do something with that money? And, this was a good way to get the price down for our residents. We drove the price down even further. So, the ending price on the basic service, I think, is $84. We started at $115. That's about a $35 savings. I think we did a decent job here in negotiating that. Could somebody else find another dollar or two, $3? Maybe you would trade it something that we didn't trade. But again, the goal was three things: burial service, where we had very few options; access to every home and every business in the village, no cherry picking; and affordable prices. And I think we've accomplished those three. So I thank you all for trusting in us too. Lori, myself, Michael, Dennis, Rick, our lawyers, and others that have helped put this together. I do think it's an attractive deal and appreciate your support. I'd like to ask for a motion to approve Resolution 25-5.
So moved.
Thank you, David. Michael? Thank you, Michael. Any further discussion? Roll call, please, Beth.
Eton,
Yes.
Broom,
Yes.
Press,
I'm voting yes. I must say, I don't think any of us are smart enough to know what will be a good price in 25 years' time. Usually new technologies, prices go down over time, not up. But I'm certainly in favor of the project.
Steinbrink,
Yes.
Turner.
Yes,
Children will thank you all.
Excuse me, 25-10, first reading and order authorizing the sale and disposal of a vehicle unneeded for village purposes and declaring an emergency. Chief, you can help me with the dollars here. We have had in the plan to replace the Tesla vehicle with an electric vehicle, a pickup truck versus the sedan. The car is been good, but not the best for police officers that are loaded up with equipment and Kevlar vests and everything else. Further, it's starting to get to the point where it's needing more maintenance than when it was new. So we have reviewed with you in the past the need to trade it in or sell it. In this case, we're going to sell it, which was a better price than the trade-in, which is why it's in front of you today. It's here as an emergency because we don't want to wait 3 months to sell the car. And frankly, we have essentially accepted the 29,800, Chief, number? Yep. Pardon me? It's only good until tomorrow, something like that.
Move to suspend.
Second,
Yes.
correct. Chief, the other numbers we had were what? And, so this is 29,760, I think the final price turns out to be. So we had a move and a suspension. Can I have I'm sorry, a motion and a second?
Second.
Second, thank you, Craig. Roll call?
Anton,
Yes.
Broom,
Yes.
Press, Steinbrink.
Yes.
Turner.
Yes.
Move to approve?
Thank you, Scott.
Second.
Thank you, Sandra. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Anton,
Yes.
Broom,
Yes.
Press, Steinbrink.
Yes.
Turner.
Yes.
Thank you. Will any of the equipment, the upfitting equipment that we took out of the Tesla be usable in the replacement vehicle? Thank you. Okay, the next item is Resolution 25-11. This is a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a professional service agreement with R.E. Warner and Associates, Inc. for professional engineering services for a new salt dome. Dave will help me with this. I think we informed you in the past that our current salt dome is in perilous state, that we will need a new one probably over the next 12 months, that we had put into the budget for this year. I think the number was $50,000 for some initial assessment and design work. That's not for the construction. The construction will be upwards of that. Dave has gone out and found a firm that can help us do that upfront work. The price came in higher than we were hoping, and so we need to do some more work with them to understand what it would take and what it would cost and how big do we need and where would it go and all those types of things. So at this point, the agreement is for $88,500 for 2 phases. However, we would only commit at this point to hire them for phase 1, which is $6,500, which essentially is the site preparation and the 3 assessment drawings where this could go. Dave, you want to comment further, please?
Yeah, and again, I'd like to try and with the new salt storage building, I'd like to see if there's a better location for us. And possibly if we can make it a little bit larger, just to make it more efficient in using it. So the thought was, and they suggested it, that let's do the preliminary design phase, which is phase 1, trying to figure out how big, what's the best location. And a big part's going to have to be the aesthetics, because if we're putting it in the rear yard, there are some people along Old Mill that'll possibly be seeing portions of it, certainly in the winter time. So they felt it would be best if we kind of just do a preliminary design phase, talk about how big it can be, what it would look like, and what the best location is. So that's what we'd like to certainly start with, is phase 1.
Do you have in mind any possible alternative locations for it?
I mean, certainly there's Carpenter Road, but that street's pretty narrow, and trying to get, the deliveries in with a tandem axle trailer, that's challenging. The only other possible location, I don't think aesthetically it would be a good place, would be River Road at the old dump site. But again, trying to get a truck in and out, it's certainly plenty of room, but I don't think we want to start really developing anything on that site. So I think we're kind of stuck here. And our trucks are here, so when we pull them up, right there, we can get them loaded. So ideally, there could be other locations, but I think this is the location we're stuck with.
Please don't use River.
No, I am hoping though this year, even regardless of that, to try and possibly do some screening along the back of kind of the tree line, maybe put some evergreen, a little berm and some trees just to help screen it a little better. That's my hope.
Thank you.
Certainly.
So this group then potentially would go on to build the dome?
No, they are engineers. So the first phase again is a study phase, kind of probably do some surveying work, come up, work with me with size, best location, the type of design.
Mhm.
Then in that contract is phase two, which would be preparing all the construction documents and for bidding and help us bid it, and then review pretty much what Chris does with the road program, same thing, help us put together what's the best option, and then whatever those out of those bidders, then we would select a contractor to actually build it, which, again, hopefully that'll be next year as far as construction. But I'd like to get the drawings prepped so that maybe through winter we can start the bidding process, that in spring we're ready to go.
Thank you.
So we have it on suspending the rules so we could engage them and start the $6,500 phase one work. We could, if that's not your pleasure, we could come back in the next two meetings and do that as well. This is not critical, but we did agree that we would get the design and the funding pieces figured out in 25 and maybe even start to build it in 25 or 26 later in the year. So with that, may I have a motion to suspend the rules?
So moved.
Thank you, Sandra. Thank you, Michael. Roll call, please.
Eton,
Yes.
Broom,
Yes.
Russ, Steinbrink,
Yes.
Turner.
Yes.
Can I have a motion to approve Resolution 2511, authorizing the mayor to enter into the service agreement with R.E. Warner and Associates, recognizing that we would only engage them at this point for phase one,
So moved.
but the agreement will be full.
Second.
Thank you. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Eton,
Yes.
Broom,
Yes.
Russ, Steinbrink,
Yes.
Turner.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, the next item is 2512, resolution accepting a bid and awarding a contract for the 25 road program and declaring an emergency. This is for the fourth year of our road program. We sent out the bids. We received back, Dave, 5 or 6 bids. 6. Chris is not here, and if anybody's uncomfortable, we can certainly postpone this and come back to the next meeting. Dave and I think can walk you through most of it. It's up to you at the end, though, if you want to approve this or not. So we had 6 bids. We had in there Hill Creek and Andrews for sure. We had Colvin as a concrete replacement as a maybe, a distant maybe. But as long as you're bidding it all and putting it all out there, let them do the work and spec it. And then we had county road maintenance and our local road maintenance. We agreed when we started doing the road program, we wouldn't just fix the bad, but we'd keep up with the stuff that we've been fixing. And so that is pretty much the 5 elements that were in there, right, Dave?
Correct.
Okay. So the bids came back at roughly $1.2 million for all that work. If you subtracted out Colvin, because it was always just the icing on the cake and probably would be done maybe by a different contractor, the Colvin number was 205,000, Dave?
Yes.
Something like that. So that would bring the regular road program down about $1 million. We have put in the budget about 850. So we've got some work to do when Chris comes back, working with the winner here, and perhaps working the number down, or perhaps on the other side, finding a few more dollars elsewhere. We'd like to stay at the $850,000 to $900,000 number, and currently at about $1 million number. Anything else, Dave?
Well, yeah, just a couple quick notes. So at the 850, the anticipation would be to certainly still keep on track with doing Hill Creek and Andrews, and then do the county roads, which we've been approved for the reimbursement, which we typically get every year. The one thing I found pretty interesting, Mayor had asked if I could look it up, and I did find the information. So if you remember, in the 2024 road program, we also had Andrews and Hill Creek in the bid, and then we decided to defer those 2 roads to 2025. And I thought this was kind of interesting. So in the 2024 road program, the bid for Andrews, the cost for Andrews would have been $114,909. This year, it will be, for the 2025 road program, it will be 96,330. So that worked out kind of in our favor. The other interesting point is for Hill Creek, in the 2024 road program, the cost would have been $441,612. And in this year's road program, it's $441,731. So pretty surprising how close, given economy and, well, I guess maybe oil's down prices, how, just in 2 years, how close that is. But I thought that was pretty interesting.
So waiting was an advantageous decision.
Yeah.
I don't think our residents would allow us to wait one more year on
Yeah.
this road, so.
No,
Yeah.
one.
One's enough. Happy to answer any other questions you think you might have on that.
We do want to do the county roads because we're reimbursed and we've been approved for that. As you know, they repay half of the material costs, so there's, if you pass on that, it's going to go to somebody else and you may not get it next year, so that's almost priority-wise the first thing you pick. And then, Andrews and Hill Creek because of their condition. What that would put at jeopardy might be a little bit of our own local roads, and how quickly we do those. Are you comfortable with the information? Do you want to wait for Chris, or do you want to deliberate on this today?
I'm all right moving forward.
I'm good moving forward.
Okay, then if we're going to move forward, in that we have a contract, I appreciate a motion to suspend the rules. Thank you,
Second.
Sandra. Thank you, David. Any further discussion? Roll call, please, on suspending the rules.
Eton,
Yes.
Broom,
Yes.
Russ, Steinberg,
Yes.
Turner.
Yes.
And a motion to accept the bid, 2025-12.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Craig. Thank you, Scott. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Eton,
Yes.
Broom,
Yes.
Russ, Steinberg,
Yes.
Turner.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. The last item on the prepared agenda is Resolution 2025-13. This would be a resolution awarding a bid and accepting a contract, accepting a bid and awarding a contract for the 25 guardrail repair and replacement program and declaring an emergency. You also know that we entered the year with substantial number of guardrail problems at the S-curve on River Road, Wilson Mills coming down the hill, Brigham Road. And the rough guess was that was going to be a six-figure number, somewhere between $100,000 and $150,000. We had put $100,000 in the budget for that. And I asked Chris as we were going through this process to think about a number that was more like 80,000 that we would reward this year. The sense was that the roads would cost us a little more, and if we could find 25,000 here and 25,000 there and 25,000 in the third place, perhaps we can put all this together. So the bids did come back. Dave can review those with you, and I think we're prepared to go to the 80,000 level or close to it. Dave?
We did have two bidders submit a bid. One was Cuyahoga Fence at $134,700 and Lake Erie Construction, which was at $121,460. But kind of going into it, we figured we would probably most likely stick with the budgeted number of $80,000. And being that Lake Erie Construction is the low bidder, that's who we're going to recommend to enter into contract with. And then we will just, again, similar to the roads, start with the worst ones, which is the S-curves, Wilson Mills. I would hopefully maybe we can get some of Brigham done, and then we'll see where we're at. And if we have a little bit more under the 80, we'll do a couple more. Not, we'll,
The low bid was 121. Did I hear that right?
yes, 121,460, Lake Erie Construction. And I'm very familiar with Lake Erie Construction. They've done in the past our guardrails, so I'm very comfortable with the work they do.
So this is somewhat, not to rob Peter to pay Paul, but we now know the total number, which we had no idea for. It's now 121. And we could the current plan would be to target up to $80,000, take the worst guardrails first. So probably the three locations that I mentioned, and then kind of stop at 80. We could certainly, if we wanted to reprioritize, put a few of the roads in there, we could maybe make the 80, 75 or 60 and do this over 2 years. The plan was never to do it over 1 year. It would have just been too much, but to do it over 2 years. So we might have a little bit of room in there. It's good to know that you've worked with them in the past. Yeah, thank you. Any questions on this? If we declare an emergency and we get started, do we need, do they have any seasonality issues that we need to respond to?
They shouldn't, other than being a larger company, other than other projects. So certainly, I mean, if you wanted more time, that shouldn't be an issue. If we get approval, I would probably want to schedule a pre-construction meeting with them probably for late next week. And then we can certainly get a start date from them and where they would want to start. So we can certainly get some more information from them, but the sooner we can get them locked in, I think the better it would be.
Okay, I'm sensing an interest in going forward. Scott?
So we'd be locked, we'd be committing to spend up to 80,000.
Right.
So then we'd have to sit with them, figure out what it is. Not that I would go hold my breath, but maybe they'd say, okay, well, maybe stretch ourselves a little bit more and.
We could try. I mean, again, I don't know budget wise. I think the full contract's only an additional 40,000. I don't know number wise, how much more that, but.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just as far as getting them lined up so that they would do it this year. So I would move to suspend the rules.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Eton,
Yes.
Broom,
Yes.
Press, Steinbrink.
Yes.
Turner.
Yes.
We have a motion to accept Resolution 2025-13.
So moved.
Thank you, Sandra. Thank you, Scott. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Eton,
Yes.
Broom,
Yes.
Press, Steinbrink,
Yes.
Turner.
Yes.
Okay. Number 18 is other council matters. We put this back on the agenda because we had taken it off last time, maybe a bit inadvertently. I had misunderstood our strategic planning meeting. People wanted to keep it on there. David was good enough to send me 2 or 3 items just earlier today that we'll think about for the next agenda to deal with the levy and the timing of the levy, the timing of the conservancy levy vis-a-vis the economy, and perhaps a contingency plan for some of our real estate, particularly the post office, given maybe the effects of Washington and streamlining buildings and people. Is that a fair summary, David?
That's fair. Yeah, I had just one other question. Where are we on the discussions with the Hunt Club relating to the sewage integration project?
Todd has in his to-do outbox quickly, a draft of a contract and a list of documents that we would need from them in negotiation. We've not shared with them any contract or any terms or any document list.
What's the time frame?
I would say within the next 2 weeks, we'll be ready to sit down.
Thank you.
Any other items from council? Doctors, any questions from yourselves? You are the audience today. No? Okay. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Okay.
One quick comment under Councilman, would we ever consider moving meetings back to Town Hall? Council chambers?
I think we could.
And I don't know what everyone's thoughts are on that, talk about it today, but I think this was a leftover from COVID that we moved here.
What, to get separation between people, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, it worked. We get closer again.
Yeah.
Okay, I agree with that.
I would, yeah, I think it's a great idea, and we could still do Zoom and have YouTube live stream meetings. It's just a lot more comfortable and more collegial, I think, to be in a smaller space. If there were meetings required, where we expect a lot more people, we could probably do it.
I think yes. If we knew there was something coming that would be a hot issue, maybe. Yeah. Right. It may be too, based on what's on the agenda. If it's something that's meaty.
Microphone.
Yeah, Mike, I think your microphone's, Mike, your microphone.
If people are watching on video, if there was a way we could take questions from them. I think that's something worth looking into. I'm not sure if I want to do it or not, but it's just probably something to look at.
Okay, may I have a motion to adjourn the council meeting?
So moved.
Thank you,
Second.
Scott. Thank you, David. All in favor? Oops, can't do that. Roll call, please.
Ken, come on.
I
Ken.
can do it. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Any
No.
abstain? Meeting's adjourned.
Month's meeting is going to be at council project.
Art show.
Next month is over.
Over there.
Art show.
Sure.